Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is November 18, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. Want to introduce and welcome our guest today, Pat Hodgell. Is that how you say it, Pat?
Yes, yes.
Pat, where are you calling from?
Um, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
First
The
question.
the old
Go ahead.
house that I was brought up in. It's been in the family since we built it in 1891.
Oh my God. 1891 is the house you live in, and that's when it was built. Amazing.
Hmm.
That's called historical preservation. I'm into that. The first question, Pat, is what is the best thing for a human being?
Oh gosh. Um, Finding something that you're good at and love and doing it.
Yeah. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Uh, Favorite is probably books.
Yeah.
They're much more detailed than other media.
Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you, two, they did an example, or three, on your own?
Um, well, actually, my parents divorced when I was 2 years old and left me in this house with my maternal grandmother. And I think she probably taught me my love of reading by reading to me.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Um, well, it's interesting and fun for one thing, and for another, I think it gives us a certain sense of control over the otherwise chaotic situation in which we find ourselves.
I like that sense of control. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Um, I would say it's innate.
Yeah. Do thoughts create emotions?
Oh, yes. And emotions create thoughts.
Yep. Some of these early questions, is it more this or more that? But of course, it's both and it depends. But this is fun. I appreciate your time here, Pat. This one is fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
Gee, think about it.
Well,
um, Sometimes research it.
I like that. Research is my what I'm attracted to. But Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Can humans think without language?
Um, well, they can think in imagery. My parents were both artists, and neither one was that interested in reading or getting information that way. They painted what they saw. Uh, I was brought up with the stories and the words, and so I tend to think in words and in images. I get both sides of that.
Right. Because Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Pat, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Hmm. I don't know. Try to rephrase it.
Yeah, rephrase.
Try to put myself in the other person's point of view to see where it has broken down and where they are unclear and where I am unclear.
Yeah. Well, your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Depends a lot on the individual, what they were
Yeah.
brought up with.
Yeah. These two are from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
I think just about everything is a function of the soul.
Wow, I like that answer. Most people go, it depends on what you mean by the soul. And it's like, come on, everybody kind of has some inclination what it is. Thank you for that. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
I am wrestling with that right now in terms of the whole EI experience. Um, I've only recently come into contact with AI being used to write things.
Yeah.
I've gotten several letters from bogus book clubs, for instance, which my agent thinks are not only scams, but probably are AI generated.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so I'm sort of waiting to see where that one goes.
Yep. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Um, Probably meaning.
Yeah. I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says that happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. What do you think of that?
Um, well, I would certainly say that happiness is rather hard to grab onto and hold onto.
Yeah.
Um, Once you've thought something through, it's in your mind. And you may forget about it for a while, but it's still there, and that understanding is still there.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Um, I sort of lost track of that question.
Yeah. Like, is consciousness there bubbling away? Are we more so detecting consciousness or are we creating consciousness?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Um, Probably speed of thought.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes can be very slow.
Yeah. But like, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Most people say speed of light, but I'd like, come on, we thought up the speed of light. But anyways, there's no right or wrong answers. But this is a poet, Audre Lorde. She said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
To dismantle the master's house.
Yeah, well, let me just put it a little more context. I start some of these questions with cue quotes before the question. It's basically you put the question in the context you want. You can apply it to dismantling the master's house. You can apply the word new if you want. Basically, what I'm asking is what tool do you most gravitate towards?
Um, well, what pops into my mind was me dismantling my father's house. He was a master artist. He died suddenly. Um, the tool I think I used most was just determination.
Wow, you really got it. Determination. So yeah, just to alert people, they can go to your website and see your paintings by your mom and your dad.
Yes.
Yeah. But I love that word determination because you really got it. People think I'm talking about a tangible tool, which you can say, but to say determination as a tool was really beautiful. And I asked people this tool question so much, and one person said, well, what about a toy? So now I follow it up. What's a toy you gravitate towards?
Oh. Well, I grew up with stuffed animals, usually stuffed horses. I mean, toy stuffed horses,
Yeah.
obviously. Uh, Now I play around a lot with yarn.
Yarn. Wow, I like that. Tactility at its best. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Hmm. Whether I lock the door?
Very practical, Pat. Thank you.
Well, I live alone. You have to be careful.
Yeah. Um, Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Pat, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I think sometimes the artist's vision makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do artists have moral obligation?
Uh, I would say yes, in the terms of they need to follow, um, be true to their art, be true to what it shows them about reality, to reflect that reality in their art, to inform other people through that vision so that they are also led to think for themselves and interpret for themselves.
Beautiful. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Oh, good question. Probably old ideas, 'cause they seem to be the thing that most often crop up and hold us back.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yes.
What
Uh,
is
I remember being in this house with my grandmother, and I was in the kitchen. I was in my high chair, and I fell out of the high chair. And just at that moment, my father came running in. He was wearing his athletic letters shirt. Um, that I remember very clearly.
Wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Can depend on what you remember, what you focus on. Some memories are painful and they're very hard to let go of. And those might be some of the things that I fear when I wake up in the middle of the night. Uh, for me, it's a little bit harder to find memories that give me pleasure.
Yeah. Wow. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Um, that again would be my father, I think. Although I didn't really know him very well growing up, he was just here sporadically. He lived in another city, then in another state. Uh, I had great respect for his creative drive and the images that he created, although it took me a long time to get to appreciate some of them. Um, I think he taught me to be a perfectionist, but he was also a very hard act to follow. And I think I've always had painfully high expectations of myself as a result of watching him and feeling in some cases that he simply rejected me.
Yeah. Back to that word you used for the tool question, determination. Do you think you got determination from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
I think on my own. My parents didn't give me very much.
Wow.
They were
Yeah.
never here, or very seldom here.
Now, the same question, Pat, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Uh, well, my teachers at Clarion Writers Workshop had a profound impact on me. At that point, I hadn't decided. I decided early on that I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't get the nerve up to try and do it until I went to Clarion. I'd only written a couple of stories at that point, and then there I met people like Harlan Ellison, Kate Wilhelm, Damon Knight, and they told me that I could write, which was a wonderful revelation.
Beautiful. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
My grandmother raised me Methodist.
Do you pray?
I usually try to pray at night. I've been agnostic for a long time, though, so I don't know who I'm praying to or what.
Yeah, but if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Uh, Probably that I helped other people,
Oh, that is beautiful.
hopefully with my writing, because that's the only way I really reach out into the world.
No, that's really great. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Um, I think definitely evil people exist. I don't know that I believe in evil as an abstract, a physical and abstract concept.
Yeah,
It's what people do with what they're given, how they use it or misuse it, and they're
yeah,
responsible for that.
they're responsible. Because the follow-up question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Um, Probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the political situation we're in right now.
And say your friend's being bullied and they come to you, hey, I need advice. What should I do? What would you say?
Um, Stand up for yourself if you can.
Yeah.
If you can't, think of something funny to say to them.
Oh, that is great.
Laugh at them, make them laugh,
Yeah.
preferably.
Beautiful. We'll get into laughter, but this is Nassim Taleb following up. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says when the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, does punishment work?
With some people, yes. With others, I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
They certainly need a certain amount of self-awareness to be able to even ask themselves those questions.
yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism." Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Um, Life doesn't always give us all the materials we need, and we also need to distance ourselves from it sometimes and see how other people cope with various situations.
Yeah. You sort of touched on this, Pat, but where's your tipping point? I mean, in high school, are you reading a lot and going, I can do this, I can be a writer? And then you went to Clarion, and that was the sort of tipping point. You kind of said that, but maybe discuss that tipping point where you go say, this is my calling to be a writer.
Um, I think I always wanted to be a writer because I found the fictional worlds that, especially science fiction and fantasy, gave to me were so rewarding, and I wanted to create my own, and I wanted to spread that particular sort of wonder.
Yeah.
But because I really questioned my own talents, I didn't do anything about it for a long time. And
So, yeah, did you become an educator before you became a writer, or they were one in at the same time or later? What's the
well, I only officially became a writer before graduate school. And I did teach for the first time in graduate school, assistant teaching.
yeah,
So I think they probably came about the same time.
same time, yeah.
Um, and doing things like writing a 400-page dissertation on Sir Walter Scott's Ivanhoe certainly taught me something about determination.
Wow. But I want to go back to sci-fi and fantasy. My friend said, he asked me, what era is the best for science fiction writers? The 20s, the 40s, the 60s, or the 80s? And the answer is when you're a teenager. So it's sort of like that was the impact a lot of people have. That's when the medium impacts people the most, like when they're in their teens, music taste wise, literature taste wise. Would you agree with that? That, you know, that sci-fi and fantasy tendency came more when you were younger?
Uh, it was certainly a lot easier to live in my imagination back in those days. As I
Yeah,
get older, it gets harder and harder, and it's making writing the last book in the series that I've basically given my life to writing. It's turned it into a real chore.
yeah. Well, that's a perfect intro to this question. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the exact opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker.
Hmm.
Pat, what role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing a book?
Uh, I'd say it probably plays a major part in that I'm always plotting, putting together the elements of the plots. I'm putting together the characters. Um, I don't do much spontaneously. Uh, Less and less as I get older. um, I don't know. My mind just goes blank in a moment.
No, that's fine. Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing?
Uh, well, I'm thinking of them constantly in that, am I writing clearly? Am I going to convey to them what's in my mind? Am I making sense of this for them? Especially with writing something like fantasy, where the rules are all up to you. Um, do I feel compelled to follow particular patterns or whatnot? No.
McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter in a camera extends our eyelid, and maybe even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, could extend consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? Whether it's the pen or the keyboard, what humanness does the writing utensil extend?
You're sort of breaking up.
Yeah, it's about how the things we invent extend our humanness. So if you use a pen or a keyboard, what humanness does the pen or keyboard, the writing utensil, extend for you?
Uh, I used to always write with a pen on theme paper. And eventually, when I switched to a laptop, I became a bit more comfortable typing. But I still tend to do my rough drafts on scrap papers, trying to catch the thoughts, but not paying a lot of attention to grammar or verb tense or anything else like that. So it's trying to decrease the distance between what my hand is doing and what my mind is telling me.
Right. That's in because it's almost like maybe I'm misunderstanding, but would you say that's sort of extending spontaneity or stream of consciousness?
Um, it is when it's really going well. When I have to really struggle for it, it's a bit more laborious.
Yeah.
But one idea tends to lead to another idea, tends to lead to another image, tends to keep pulling me forward into the story.
Yeah. Really good. Because here's a couple thoughts on writing. And this is Milan Kundera. He wrote Unbearable Likeness of Being. This is why I love writing, because the character that I'm writing about can go further than I can. It's like that sounds romantic because if I write a character on this piece of paper, how can the character go further than you can?
Um, well, in almost all of my writing, I've had a fictional alter ego, and she is the idealized version of myself. And she certainly is more capable than I am. But in order to flesh out her skills, I've also had to practice in them. Um, the main two examples I would give is that her people do a lot with martial arts. So I studied judo and aikido when I was younger. I was terrible at both of them, but at least it gave me a feeling for what it would be like to be using them in actual combat. When it came to the point where my heroine uh, was going to team up with the Wrathhorn Death's Head, and a Wrathhorn is sort of like a coniferous unicorn with ivory plating and a really bad temper. And I'd loved horses all my life, but I never had the access to them. At that point, for the first time in my life, because my dad had just died and left me some money, I went out and bought a horse, uh,
Wow.
a green broke saddlebred mare, and spent years training her and training myself at the same time. So that sort of hands-on experience it's like then that allowed me to talk about this relationship between a human and a non-human.
Right. Was the horse period fun?
It was at first. Then I had a couple of really bad falls, broke some bones, and towards the end, well, I started went riding when I was like 50, so I was no spring chicken even then.
Right.
Uh, but after I found out that I really could get hurt if I wasn't careful, I began to be a little bit more afraid.
Yeah. Here's the poet critic Helen Vendler. She just died last year. She said, I write to explain things to myself. Any comment?
Um, I think any serious writer does that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many things each one of us doesn't know or hasn't been able to work their way through, and the writing becomes a sort of a laboratory where you experiment.
Yeah.
It also gives you a chance to experience other personality types and try to understand them. Hopefully, it does anyway.
Yeah. Steve Martin loves to quote David Mamet. Art is a product of the unconscious mind. You know, we've been talking for 30 minutes. The neuroscientists, linguists say we're operating 80% unconsciously. I would say we're both been here pretty consciously for 30 minutes.
Hmm.
But any thoughts on this line? Art is a product of the unconscious mind. Any thoughts?
Um, a lot of art is.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily write about what you expected you were going to write about. You find yourself exploring different things. Um, at least I do.
Yeah.
And I really prefer it when I can just tap into the subconscious because I think
Yeah.
some of the most powerful images and imagery comes from there.
Yeah. But is there any ritual or routine where you can do that, or do you just wait for it to happen? Can you kind of nudge it along to happen?
Um, I nudge it along frequently because I need to explain in a fantasy world why such and such a thing happens,
Yeah,
which leads me to research similar events in the real world.
I see. Yeah,
And I get wonderful ideas occasionally, not all the time, from just doing research.
yeah,
Um, give you an example, I had to figure out a way that I could foreshadow an earthquake was coming. So I did some research, and one of the things I found in the library was a book on when the snakes wake, which was how various cultures use animals to indicate to them that something is going to happen, and
yeah,
how the Chinese would use a bowl of catfish and watch their behavior. So I took that, I applied the knowledge of the walking catfishes of Florida, and I got walking fish that walk out of the river and head for the hills when the earthquake is coming.
Oh my.
And they come back down after the last aftershock. So
That's like, yeah, we have a tsunami possibility here in Venice, California, and they say if a tsunami's coming, just watch the cats and dog. They're all running up to Mar Vista to the hill. Just follow them.
probably the same basic idea.
It is. That's what I'm saying. And you know, they say just before an earthquake hits, animals, dogs will bark, or if you're holding a baby, this happened to my friend. The baby will squeeze your arm or indicate they know it's coming, and
Mm,
then the earthquake happens.
hmm.
Pretty amazing. So this is Bertel Breck asked Charles Lawton, why do you act? Why are you an actor? He says, because people don't know what they are like, and I think I can show them. Any thoughts of that in regards to fantasy, right? You know, your writing.
Well, you always want to show people new things,
Yeah.
but you want to use them. I want to use them as to illuminate things that we actually know on a daily basis.
You mean to illuminate the norm, the hidden sort of, to illuminate the things we're not really paying attention to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in using facts and logic as much as possible in creating fantasy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up falling back on the tropes that everybody else is using.
The cliches. It almost reminded me what you said was what Joyce said, epiphanies in everydayness, that you can find epiphanies, you know, if you stub your toe or something just normal. You don't have to go out of your way. But this is Igor Stravinsky. Most people don't know what they like what they know. This sort of touches on this idea of taste. You know, why do you gravitate towards sci-fi and fantasy and someone else gravitates towards romance novels, or someone else gravitates towards some other kind of writing? What do you think of this idea? How do you acquire taste? How does one acquire taste?
As a writer, you read widely,
Yeah.
many different things. Which is probably why I'll never be a bestseller.
And in regards to literature, one person told me that there may be a difference between narrative and storytelling. And they differentiate it by saying narrative does not lie. I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Narrative does not lie. And is there a difference between narrative and storytelling?
If there's a difference, it's a technical one. Storytelling uses one set of skills. Narrative can use others, like finding out ways to explore characters. Point of view is part of narrative sometimes.
Point of view, yeah. Hollis Frampton's filmmaker said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Pat, can you forget to die?
Well, I constantly write about people who are in the process of becoming gods and probably won't die, but that's for them. For me, I don't know. I always found death kind of entertaining.
Beautiful.
In a Halloween sense.
Yeah. But it's funny because when I ask that question, can you forget to die? People kind of freak out and they don't know if I'm meaning it metaphorically or literally. And so that raises another question. McLuhan says that all words are metaphorical. So what is the word literal a metaphor for?
Itself?
Yeah, itself. Very good. I've had a few interesting answers. One guy goes light. Another person said letter. The actual letter, literal, is a metaphor for letters. So, yeah, I like that. It's self. I spoke with Michael Apted, the filmmaker, years ago, and I said, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know that Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it flourished with MTV in the 80s to the point where Marty Scorsese said, oh, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So Michael Apted said, well, because we've learned to take in information faster. And so I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
I tend to think that a lot of people are lazy, and it's a lot easier to be superficial when you're going fast.
Yeah.
Fast writers have always disturbed me because
Yeah.
they don't seem to be giving their craft the attention that it needs. Only a few people can really do it that well.
Wow. What a point. I've never heard that. That's really beautiful, because the real hidden question is it literally possible to multitask?
That's not something I do very well. Uh, I mean, I can be watching a YouTube video and knitting at the same time. That's probably about as extreme as I get.
Yeah. What was the motive? What's your guess or hunch was the motive of the cave artist?
Um, I think to leave his or her mark.
Yeah.
It's a way of gaining immortality.
Yeah. Well, that goes to the archive question. And this is, I go to a library every day. I love archives, but I also love the fact that the futurist, the Italian art movement, says destroy all museums and destroy all libraries. And, the word archive literally or etymologically comes from 1400, means to keep safe, free from harm. 200 years later, it's what we think of an archive as: record or document preserved as evidence.
Hmm.
But Charles Baudelaire said, if you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to only own the day you're talking, it will last forever. I mean, Pat, isn't the point of life to live in the moment, to be here now? So why do we have to save all this stuff if the point of life is to live in the moment? Wyndham Lewis said artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. So the basic two questions is archiving more innate or more invented? And do you have plans for your own archive?
Um, yes. My diaries and my early drafts are supposed to go to the Laura Tues up in Toronto at the Judith Meredith archive collection. I don't know if anyone will ever read them, but
Well, that's pretty good. Let's stay on that for a second. Did you seek them out, or did they come to you?
well, a long time ago they had me up there to give a reading, so I had made a contact with them at that point. And when I started looking around for somebody who might value these things and not just throw them in the trash,
Yeah.
that occurred to me to be a place that might welcome them.
That was smart. Really good. So many people I ask this question, Pat, just go, I should, but they're too busy making stuff, and the boxes just pile up.
Yeah, I guess in my case, it's also a matter of looking ahead because I don't really have anybody to clean up after me
Yeah.
and to sort out these things. I've got a garage full of my father's artwork that I don't know what to do with it. Uh,
That was the next question. What about your parents' art? Where is that get?
well, 2/3 of my father's art got donated to his college down in Florida.
Oh, that's good.
But and I thought the rest was going to go to them too, but apparently they've run out of storage space.
Yeah.
So I'm trying desperately to find some place, safe haven for them because I took the things I thought were the best,
Yeah.
and I really don't want to see those go in a dumpster.
Yeah. Okay, now do you think archiving is more innate or more invented in humans?
I think innate.
Yeah. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Depends on the situation.
Yeah. In your accomplishments, Pat, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Um, in the beginning, luck played a big role. As I go on further into my career, I think skill plays a big role. And what was the third word?
Ambition.
Ambition. I try very hard not to put goals that are beyond my reach because that way lies incredible frustration.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would love to have more ambition, but I would also love to see it rewarded more.
Yeah. That's funny because Robert Browning had that line, our reach should exceed our grasp, or what is heaven for?
Right.
And McLuhan reworded it. He said, our reach should exceed our grasp, or what is a metaphor?
I like that.
T.S. Eliot said, poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Um, Images, present tense words.
Oh,
Sometimes language itself.
yeah, I like that. Present tense words, meaning not past tense, present. So you mean you're living in the moment?
Yes, that's what my rough drafts are usually like.
Wow.
I find it easier to just let it all spill out.
Yeah.
And then I usually go back and change it to past tense because
Oh, you change it. Wow.
well, that's the refining process.
Yeah. Two of my film heroes have this mantra, ignore yourself. Jonas Mika says, there's no self expression. And Cecil Taylor, the jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
I mean, both elements play a role.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's one and sometimes it's the other.
Yep. Can art making be egoless?
Probably not.
Yeah. Is perception reality?
I never really understood that phrase. Uh,
Wait, which phrase? Perception or reality?
um,
Or both of them together?
both of them which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, Lily Tomlin says reality's just a collective hunch.
That's not bad.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things
5
before.
breakfast.
Have
Yes.
you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, I believe in what I'm writing at the time. I believe in what I'm reading at the time. But I don't know that that lasts forever.
Yeah. McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, saying that artists dream awake. You know, everyone has this creative powers to dream while they're sleeping, but artists can also dream awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process?
Very rarely. I usually have dreams that reflect things that are happening in my life or that bother me. They're frequently nightmares of one sort or another. I very seldom dream about what is that? That's a car honking.
Look at that. Very receptive.
Yes, he suddenly comes alive.
Yeah. So, Pat, tell me one major element of your writing, your creativeness, that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed in the years you've been doing this.
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I always seem to be trying to find new things to interest me and new things to explain things. Uh, I thought when I finished my first book that I was done with trying to discover what a human deity would be like, but that's become a constantly evolving theme in all of the 10 books that I've written so far.
Wow.
And it's sort of like I never really settled on what my own religion was after I lost the basic childhood's religion. Um, so it's just a series of thought experiments.
It's a good way to put it. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Um, well, it depends on what you think of as a weakness. Uh, I thought for a long time that it was a weakness that I preferred to be by myself, to not have much of a social life, to live in this house. But this house has become my soul image, and I draw a lot of strength from that.
Nice. Yeah. We call it, you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough, or a rejection into a redirection. So how you can flip that. It's sort of like this, some of these questions are like people say that's a false binary, or it's like, is it more this or more that? But here's one in regards to you pursuing educating, being an educator. McLuhan in 57 said it's misleading to suppose there's any basic difference between education and entertainment. It's like setting up a distinction between didactic and lyric poetry on the ground that one teaches and the other one pleases. However, it's always been true that whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So I'm curious your thoughts on, is there a difference between education and entertainment? If so, what is it? And whatever pleases teaches more effectively.
That I absolutely believe in.
Really? Why?
Uh, well, I spent a lot of my teaching career teaching composition, which is a
Yeah.
course that nobody wants to be in. It's just the basics of composition, the mechanics of it. It wasn't until they let me choose my own subject, which is how I got involved with Wisconsin Gothic, that I began to really enjoy the subject that I was teaching, and I got students that were enjoying it. And for the first time, I saw this answering spark from the classroom. Now, I don't know how much I actually taught them. But I think I would have taught them a lot less if I'd simply stood up there and droned
Yeah.
about whatever verb tense they're doing now.
But that's funny because everybody kind of agrees with that, I ask. But one person said, whatever displeases teaches more effectively. So, I mean, you're creating fantasy literature, Gothic literature, but also you're educating. Is there a difference between education and entertainment in the long run, whether you're in the academic setting or you're publishing a book?
Well, I mean, education can be entertaining. I think if it is entertaining, it lasts longer.
Yeah.
People remember it, whereas they'll just go through the motions of learning something. And I really hate being boring.
Yeah. The Aborigines in Australia have no word for boredom. I'm like, does that mean they never get bored, or they have a word for it that's doesn't, describe what we feel,
Yeah, good question.
Louis Buñuel said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Most people go, that's great, I love it. And one person said, no, that's wrong, because if I want to find something, I want to seek it out. I want to find it and seek it out. So I morphed it into the question, if the cliche goes, the journey is more important than the destination. Why do we have to seek or name a destination?
Well, maybe because we're goal-oriented.
Yeah.
It's also a great way to be disappointed.
It's funny because the flaneurs in Paris in the 20s, psychogeography, they just sat around and drank coffee all day and then changed the world. Picasso, Hemingway, and then Joyce saying, I could find epiphany in everydayness. So this truth seeking leads me to the Marcel Proust question, on what occasion do you lie?
Well, I try to do that as seldom as possible. I don't like to hurt people.
Yeah. Eartha Kitt said, truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever.
Hmm.
Any thoughts on that one? Because I think it's funny when she goes, only lies, it seems, go on forever.
Well, some lies do have long lives.
Yeah.
And it's one reason why it sort of loops back to the question about old ideas.
Yeah.
Um, and people are incredibly gullible about what is the truth and what is a lie.
Yeah. That Don Marquis, I love. He goes, if you make people think they're thinking, they'll love you. If you make them really think, they'll hate you. So, this whole thing is the opposite of a fact is falsehood, but the opposite of a profound truth may be another profound truth. So it's just how are we defining what is true? You know, the old and new idea question came from John Cage. He said, I can't understand why people are frightened of new ideas. I'm frightened of the old ones. But then this guy, Charles Kettering, he sort of resonated more with you said. People are very open-minded about new things, just as long as they're exactly like the old ones.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So, Pat, fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
Um, I'd say when it has a moral element, anger at evil.
Right. I was going to say, give me an example. What's a moral element?
Um, well, I think being angry at the current political administration is entirely justified
Yeah.
because they lack that moral dimension.
Amazing. Totally. Well, that's perfect because that's leads into Utah Phillips said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Probably all the wrong people.
Yeah. The funny thing is that etymologically, the word freedom breaks down to exactly what Utah said. Freedom is giving oneself one's own laws. So I'm going to ask you the question, what does freedom mean to you now? But I want to set it up. But T.S. Eliot said, freedom is only truly freedom when it appears against the background of an artificial limitation. And that caused McLuhan to say, how are you to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads in the invisible teeth of technology, calling the whole thing freedom? Like, what does freedom mean to you now?
Um, to me personally,
Yeah.
uh, to live the way I want to,
Yeah.
not to be under constraints that I don't agree with.
Yeah. What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Unless responsibilities are informed by the right or by some degree of rightness, they aren't valid.
Yeah. What's the difference between rebellion and revolution?
Sort of depends on which side you're on.
Yeah.
You can say that a child is rebelling if you don't like what they're doing. You can say you are being part of revolution when you want to change something that someone else is doing.
Yeah. That resonates with me. Rebellion, I think, is there's something wrong. Revolution is there's something wrong, and I have a proposal, a re-evolution to re-evolve. Like here's another way or possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But this is John Basil Barnhill, socialist. Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. And then in 2005, the film V for Vendetta paraphrased it. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. So the question is around how do you personally handle false fears? Like when the government says we have a war on drugs or a war on poverty or a war on terrorism. Well, you can't have a war on drugs because drugs don't fight, and you can't say no to drugs because drugs don't talk. So, Pat, how do you personally handle false fears?
As if they were propaganda.
Yeah. My friend wrote comedy with Robin Williams. I said, can satire be destructive? And he said, that's the job of satire. But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think dying is destructive. Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. What's the function of satire?
I would say to show truth to people who otherwise would deny it.
Yeah. And you brought up humor earlier as a tool. What's the function of laughter?
Well, it's a good tool to handle stress.
Yeah.
It feels good. If it's not a bitter sort of laughter.
Well, Steve Allen said behind every joke there's a grievance. Grievance. Drop the word every. Behind jokes there's grievances. Any thoughts on that?
I don't see it as quite that limited. I'd
Yeah.
say behind every satire is a grievance.
Yeah. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Oh boy. In that respect, I haven't had a lot of experience, so I
Yeah.
can't really answer.
No worries. What caused matriarchy?
Just guessing. Men's fears.
Yeah, wow. There's a line, Pat, that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So any thoughts on this line, you create what you resist? I'm not saying you, Pat, but like one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
Well, it's certainly one way to create tension,
Yeah.
dramatic tension, maybe
Yeah.
moral tension.
Yeah. How do you find peace of mind?
You're assuming I do.
Right.
With difficulty.
Yeah. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. 1, who started it all?
I have absolutely no idea.
No worries. 2, are we going to make it?
Not at this rate.
3, where do we put it?
Behind us?
4, who's cleaning it up?
Hopefully responsible people.
Beautiful. 5, is it serious?
I tend to think that almost everything is serious.
Okay, we got a few more and we're done. Thanks so much for your time, Pat. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I suppose don't expect anything to be easy.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
I think in this house it usually comes over.
Yep. That's the way the patent is 100 years old, over. And 80 to 90% of people say over, but the people who say under have their reasons. If a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh gosh. Swimming upstream.
Oh, I like that. They want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Old leather.
Nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
I don't think I'd want one to begin with.
Right. I get that answer. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Children.
I've gotten that answer once. That's amazing. They're good, never had and never want them. Okay. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
I would say people taking a good hard look at what's going on around them and rebelling.
Yeah. What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
I don't know. Is there a God?
There you go. Two-part. How has writing shaped your behavior, and how has being an educator shaped your behavior?
Being a writer, it's shaped my entire life because I have to have a certain amount of freedom to write. I haven't been able to tie myself to, say, a career in educating, which is the only other thing I know how to do, because it would be too demanding.
Yeah.
What are you doing down there? Somebody's bouncing off my foot.
Well, let's just delve into it for a second. This Elmer Leonard said the job of the writer is to get the reader to the next sentence. What do you think your job is as a writer and your job as an educator to writers?
I guess as a writer, was it E.M. Forrester who said only connect?
Yes, I love that.
As an educator, pay attention to details.
Yeah. Did you find over the years that it changed how the students exercise their attention to details, or was it pretty consistently the same? I mean, how many years did you teach about?
Um, Off and on since I was 30, so 40 years,
Yeah.
something like that.
Was there a change, a change that you could observe and say, this is how I saw my students change, or was it pretty consistent how they were?
I think the change that I saw that pained me the most was with the technological advances, plagiarism became much more prevalent. And
Oh,
many of them would not understand what you were saying, really understand when you said, this is plagiarism. You're using somebody else's words. You're using somebody else's phraseology.
yeah,
Oh, but I cut and pasted it. It was on
yeah,
the internet.
yeah.
And that is infuriating.
Wow. But out of 40 years, was it the last 10 started mid, or was it all 40 years?
um, I'd say the last 20 of it.
Yeah, last 20. Okay, I got two more, Pat, and we're out of here. Thank you again. This is Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over an hour. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
What, being a writer?
Well, again, you put it in the context you want. Being a human, being a writer, being an educator, however you want to put it. Yeah.
Uh, finding ways to contribute to other people
Yeah.
without compromising my own solitude.
Yeah. What gives you the most optimism?
Well, I suppose that there are talented people still out there.
Yeah. The first question I asked is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question I asked, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Pat. Thank you so much for your time and energy.
Well, thank you for asking me some interesting questions.
And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you so much. And so goodbye to your cat, too. What was your cat's name?
The black and white one is Sky. And earlier on, you would have seen my ragdoll Starbuck.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Pat.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.